Hey guys, Jordan Schumacher here. What's happening? Hope you all had a great holidays. We are back on track with the Facebook Ads Accelerator program videos. We got a lot of ground to cover in this one. You're probably going to want to watch it a couple times because I'm going to move through this pretty fast, so let's dive into it. In this video, we're going to talk about how to reverse engineer your funnel KPIs or your funnel key performance indicator. So after deciding on your funnel, after going through your competitor R&D, deciding on the funnel that you're going to create, the first step is to map out your funnel. And after mapping out your funnel, the next step is to reverse engineer your funnel KPIs at each step of your funnel, which will allow you to build a profitability roadmap along your funnel so that at every stage of your funnel, you can compare the actual KPIs that you're seeing to your benchmark KPIs on your reverse engineer sheet so that you have an idea on whether or not you are on pace to be profitable or not. And if your actual KPIs are underperforming, you'll know the exact stage of your funnel that needs to be optimized. And most importantly, this will give you an instant real-time view into the projected profitability of your funnel, as opposed to if you don't follow this, then you're gonna have to run traffic for 2 weeks and then check your stats at the end of the 2 weeks only to find out that you've lost a massive amount of money. That sucks, I promise you. And so following this method will allow you to correct and optimize your funnel in real time. And so let's take a look at how to do that. So this process is the exact same no matter what webinar you build out, but for the first example, let's start with a webinar funnel. So the very first step that we're going to do in this reverse engineering your funnel KPIs process is map out the funnel. And so in that case, then that gives us an ad, and that takes us to a landing page where you register for the webinar, which takes us to the webinar itself, which let's say we're selling a $5,000 product, so that will take us to an application page, and the application will drive to a phone sale page, and that is my chat bubble there. So we've got the funnel drawn out, and we can see that we have one step, which is the ad click, 2 steps, which is the registrants, 3 steps, and 4 steps. And then we have the sale. So technically 5 steps. So the next thing that we do is simply list out our metrics down here below. So again, we mentioned that we are selling a 5K priced core offer. So price is 5,000. Now, typically for a benchmark, we want to see a minimum 200% or 2x ROI or 200% return on ad spend. So that means that we are willing to pay $2,500 to acquire a customer. So we are willing to pay $2,500 to make a $5,000 sale. And so CTAC, which stands for cost to acquire a customer, we are willing to pay $2,500. Which means at step 5 here, we are willing to pay $2,500 per sale. So the next thing to do now that we have that is to list step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we are willing to pay $2,500 per sale. Now, typically, for a phone sale, typically you're going to see, if you're good and you know what you're doing, you're going to see around a 30% conversion rate on your phone sale, which means basically 1 out of every 3 sales you're going to close. And so if we close 1 out of every 3 sales here in step 4, so step 4 is the number of people that we get on the call. And so if we close 1 out of every 3 of them, then that means that we take $2,500, which is what we're willing to pay for a customer, and we basically take that times 0.33 times where's my period? 0.33, which means that we are willing to pay $825 to get a customer applied and to get a customer on the phone. So in step 4 here, we would write 825. Now, we know that, and this is a benchmark, and I'll provide benchmarks as a download, just some standard industry benchmarks, but typically, assuming your webinar converts well, typically you can see anywhere from 5 to 10% of the people who actually register for your webinar will actually submit an application. So let's be conservative. Let's say 5% of people who register for your webinar will actually submit an application, which means so you're willing to pay $825 per application. And if 5% of your webinar registrants actually turn into an application, then that means you're willing to pay 5% of $825 per webinar registrant. So you're going to take 825 times 0.05. That's going to give you $41.25 per webinar registrant. Now, standard landing page conversion rate, I mean, a good landing page will convert it around 30%, but standard conservative is 20%. And so basically, if 20% of your landing page clicks will convert into a webinar registrant and you're willing to pay $41 per webinar registrant, then that means that you are willing to pay 20% of $41.25. So you're going to take that times 0.2, and that means that essentially you are willing to pay $8.25 per registrant, and we know that you're willing to pay $8.25 per click. And so, yeah, that makes sense because we're not. So number one here would be what we'd be willing to pay, like cost per view, basically, and we're not going to track that. We only care about cost per click. So essentially, the way that this math shakes out is you're willing to pay up to $8.25 per click, $41.25 per webinar registrant. So if you pay $8.25 per click and 20% of those people who click actually become a webinar registrant, that means that you are paying on average $41.25 per webinar registrant. Now, if 10% of those people actually if 5% of those people actually apply to get on the phone with you, then that means you're willing to pay $825 per phone application. And if you close 1 out of every 3 of them, that means that you are able to pay $2,500 per customer, which will give you a 200% return on your ad spend, which is sort of our baseline. And now what this allows you to do is after you go through this and you reverse engineer your way down, so you always start at the end and work your way backwards. But what this allows you to do is, so this is CPC, this is cost per lead, this is cost per app, and this is cost to acquire a customer. So what this allows you to do then is as you start running traffic, if you launch your ads and you're getting ads at, let's say, a $3 cost per click, you know that you're ahead of pace. And so if you get your ads at a $3 cost per click, if all else stays the same, conversion rates throughout the rest of your funnel stay the same, you're going to make a lot more money. You're probably going to get a 4x ROI, right? And if you are taking a look at this and you're getting, $3 CPCs and you're getting $15 CPLs, but your cost per appointment is $1,500, when you have it benchmarked at $825, so your cost per appointment is twice as much, that means that most likely your webinar sucks. So you would go up here and you would match up you would match up your cost per appointment with the webinar, and so you know that your webinar sucks and your webinar needs work. Alternatively, what it could be is that because your CPCs are so cheap, you're targeting poor traffic. That is a possibility, but generally speaking, it's because your webinar would suck, simply because if you were targeting poor quality traffic, they probably wouldn't make it all the way this far. They wouldn't have opted into your webinar, etc. And so basically, this just allows you to have insights into your funnel in real time and tells you exactly where you need to optimize your funnel. So let's do an example for a basic e-commerce page, for example. So let's say we have an ad to a sales page, to the cart, right? And then obviously, so you add something to your cart and then you buy it, right? And let's say that this product, let's say the average order value is $100. And so that means that we're willing to pay $50 to acquire a customer. So if we're willing to pay $50 here, so we've got step 1, which is the click. Step 2 is the add to cart, and then step 3 is the actual purchase. And so step 1, step 2, step 3. If we're willing to pay $50 here, we know that the cart abandonment rate is about 60%, which means that 40% of people are going to actually convert from the cart to a purchaser, which means we can afford to pay 40% of $50, which is times 0.4, which is $20. And typically, the average sales page is going to get an add to cart at around 5 to 10%. So let's be conservative here and call it 5%. So it'd be $20 times 0.05. That gives us a $1 cost per click. And so for this particular funnel, we could afford to pay $1 CPC on the ad, assuming that the landing page here converted at 20%. And assuming that the landing page did convert at 20%, that means we're paying $20 per add to cart. And assuming we have 40% cart completion, that means that we have a $50 cost to acquire a customer. Now, obviously, if our landing page performed better than a 5% add to cart, then we can afford to pay more on the CPC side of things. That would go up as a result. Or alternatively, that would mean that we would just be more profitable on the back end. And so you can see how no matter what funnel you have, if you just list out these steps and then list out your steps here and start at the end and then just work your way backwards through each step of the funnel, you can see how easy it is to map out exactly what metrics you need to hit. And then as you launch your funnel and as you're looking at your metrics and your conversion rates, you're going to be able to tell immediately what's off and where you're missing or where you're exceeding your expectations, and that will tell you where you need to go to actually make optimizations or make changes. And so, for example, if your ads were coming in at like $4 cost per click, that would tell me that I need to focus on the ads, because there's no way that this funnel is going to be profitable unless my landing page is just converting significantly better than 5%, or there's no cart abandonment, which is almost unheard of. And so in this case, if my CPCs were too high, I would focus on switching up ad creatives to get my CPCs to go down. If my add to carts were too high, then I would focus on either my ad targeting or my landing page optimization. And if my cart abandonment was too high, so my actual cost to acquire a customer was too high, but these two benchmarks were in line, that would mean that my cart abandonment is too high. So I would take a look at my shopping cart and see what I can do to actually decrease the cart abandonment rate. Potentially add like exit intent pop-ups with a discount, and then obviously add in email follow-up to get more people to go back and reclaim their carts and things of that nature. So doing this is incredibly powerful. It gives you incredibly great optics into your funnel, and in a very short period of time, it allows you to immediately see what's wrong with your funnel and where improvements need to be made.